Hello and welcome to K News. This is Hardik Trivedi. Let's have a look on what is happening in India and in the world. The US would announce certain decisions on China on Friday. President Donald Trump has said as he emphasized that Beijing should have stopped the coronavirus at the source. Led by the US, several countries in the world have blamed China for the spread of coronavirus and its failure to provide timely information about the disease, leading to the death of over 3 lakh people and causing an unprecedented economic crisis. Trump has been pressing China to agree for an inquiry into the origin of the virus, including the allegations that it emerged from a biolab in the central Chinese city of Wuhan. Tomorrow we are going to be having a press conference on China, so we'll be making certain decisions and we'll be discussing them tomorrow, Trump told reporters at the White House on Thursday. Trump in the last several weeks has been very critical of China's inability to control the spread of the novel coronavirus within its territory. It has so far not given any indication of the steps that he is contemplating taking against China. Trump had on May 14 threatened to cut off the whole relationship with China. US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo on May 16 had said that President Trump will decide on the future course of action on penalizing China, a day after Trump said that he does not want to talk to his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping right now. However, China has rejected all US allegations of a cover-up regarding COVID-19 outbreak. Meanwhile, in a separate development, several US senators sent a letter to United Nations Permanent Representative of Estonia and France, the current and incoming president of the United Nations Security Council (UNSC), in support of the US call for an immediate UNSC meeting on recent action taken by Chinese government to undermine Hong Kong's autonomy. China last week introduced the draft of a controversial national security law in Hong Kong in its parliament to tighten Beijing's control over the former British colony, in what could be the biggest blow to the territory autonomy and personal freedoms since 1997, when it came under Chinese rule. Hong Kong, an economic powerhouse, is a special administrative region of China. The US over the last few days has expressed concerns over new Chinese law on Hong Kong and has indicated taking steps against it. A national security law proposed by China could imperil Hong Kong's status as one of the world's best places to do business. The law, approved Thursday in Beijing, led Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to say Washington will no longer treat Hong Kong, already reeling from anti-government protest and pandemic, as autonomous from Beijing. The Chinese government has not given any details of the law, which is aimed at suppressing secessionist and subversive activity in the former British colony. After 11 months of protest, Chinese leaders say it's needed to combat unspecified threats in the semi-autonomous region of 7 million people. But business groups, lawyers and financial analysts say potential repercussions range from loss of businesses for Hong Kong's financial markets and law firms to loss of professional talent in the city. Hong Kong is highly regarded for its skilled workforce, business-friendly legal system, Western-style free speech and ease of movement. But global companies already were shifting from operations out of Hong Kong due to rising cost and uncertainty after prolonged, sometimes violent clashes between police and pro-democracy protesters. We are potentially cutting ourselves off from a lot of different funding avenues, like grants from the US government, he said. Hong Kong's leader Carrie Lam has tried to reassure companies and the public that civil liberties won't be affected, but the law shows Chinese President Xi Jinping is determined to tighten control. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said Wednesday those changes are significant enough that Washington will no longer treat Hong Kong as autonomous. Washington could revoke its promise to exchange Hong Kong dollars for US dollars, potentially disrupting the city's financial system, the economist Michael Spencer said in a report. The financial sector would take a big hit if companies such as MSCI reclassify Hong Kong as an emerging market like Shenzhen and Shanghai instead of a developed market, Spencer said. A very large share of capital invested in the Hong Kong market will have to leave. Hong Kong's uncertain future is putting it at a disadvantage with other Asian destinations that are competing to attract foreign investment, such as Singapore and Tokyo. With lockdown 4 drawing to an end May 31, state governments are considering if central guidelines allow the imposition of restriction only in the containment zones and allowing a range of activities elsewhere, including opening more markets, enabling more interstate transport facilities, allowing more commercial activity and possibly even religious places with social distancing norms, said officials of a range of state governments. They are also planning the eventual opening of schools in a month. In the ongoing phase of the lockdown, the central gave authority to the states to demarcate zones based on the severity of cases and within a set of broad guidelines, allowed states to frame their own rules on the context of activity allowed. Several states allowed the resumption of private transport, limited public transport, shops, malls, complexes, and industrial activities. The center, in its period, also resumed the operations of domestic flights, but the focus now shifts to the next phase. Uttar Pradesh Assembly Speaker Hriday Narayan Dikshit has allowed the Samajwadi Party to withdraw its plea for disqualification of party MLA Shivpal Singh Yadav. SP has presented a petition before me for disqualification of membership of party MLA Shivpal Singh Yadav on September 4, 2019. SP leader Ram Govind Chaudhary later gave an application on March 23 for withdrawal of petition as important documents and evidence could not be produced, the speaker said on Wednesday. After going through the documents, I approved Chaudhary's request for withdrawal of the petition, he added. Asked about the development, a senior SP leader said our party president is of the view that the party will not go ahead with the disqualification proceedings. People of the state will decide their fate. He denied rumors of Shivpal coming close to the party chief again. SP Supremo Akhilesh Yadav had earlier announced that his party would not press for the disqualification of Shivpal Yadav. Shivpal Yadav, the estranged uncle of Akhilesh Yadav, was elected from the Jaswant Nagar Assembly constituency in the 2017 state elections. He later floated a new party, Pragatishil Samajwadi Party, and contested the recent Lok Sabha election on its symbol from Firozabad seat. The Delhi High Court Friday asked the Delhi government to file a detailed affidavit on a batch of pleas challenging the decision to levy 70% special corona fees on the MRP of liquor of all brands in the national capital. The Delhi government had earlier filed its response to the petitions, saying that trade or consumption of liquor is not a fundamental right of a citizen, and the state has authority to regulate its sale and levying 70% special corona fees on MRP of alcohol brands in a price for grant of such privilege to public. A bench of Chief Justice D.N. Patel and Justice Sangeeta Dhingra Sehgal conducting hearing through video conferencing heard part arguments and asked the government to file another detailed affidavit and listed the matter for further hearing on June 19. The Delhi government, in its earlier affidavit, has opposed the petitions which have challenged a May 4 notification levying a special corona fees on liquor in the national capital, and said there is an element of privilege via sale or dealing in liquor, and the state is free to regulate it under the excise law. A citizen therefore has no fundamental right to do trade or business in liquor, or for that matter also to consume liquor. On the other hand, the state has the authority and jurisdiction to regulate, including prohibit totally or partially, such trade and commerce, as well as to regulate the sale, purchase and consumption of liquor, it said. Besides Delhi, 10 other states, Assam, Meghalaya, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Uttar Pradesh, Haryana, Rajasthan, all have imposed similar fees, the government argued. The affidavit said owing to the clampdown of all economic activities due to the coronavirus lockdown, the revenue of Delhi government preliminary comes from VAT and GST collection. State excise and stamp duty has shrunk by almost 90% in April 2020, and the total collection dwindled to a mere rupees 300 crore as opposed to approximately rupees 4,000 crore in the corresponding month in 2019. The government has said the total excise revenue, including the corona fee collected by the state during May 4 to 25, has been to the tune of rupees 227 crore, which includes rupees 127 crore of special corona fee against the total revenue collection of rupees 425 crore in May last year. It's time for a short break. We'll join you in a short while.
వేసవి అవుతుంది fun with the cooler number one. ఇక చేసుకో more fun ఉంటే cooler number one. ఇక don't run from the sun ఉంటే Kensta number one.
Welcome back to K News and thank you for watching. Let's continue the streak of news. China has rejected US President Donald Trump's offer to mediate between India and China as tensions over border disputes continue to rise. China and India are capable of properly resolving the issues through dialogue and consultation, the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman said. In a surprise move, Mr. Trump on Wednesday offered to mediate or arbitrate the raging border dispute between India and China, saying he was ready, willing and able to ease the tensions amid the continuing standoff between the armies of two Asian giants. Reacting for the first time to the US president's offer, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Zhao Lijian said the two countries did not want the intervention from a third party to resolve military standoff. Between China and India, we have existing border-related mechanism and communication channels, Mr. Zhao told reporters. We are capable of properly resolving the issues between us through dialogue and consultation. We do not need the intervention of the third party, he said. Several areas along the line of actual control in Ladakh and North Sikkim have seen major military built-up by both the Indian and Chinese armies, in a clear signal of escalating tensions and hardening of positions by the two sides even 2 weeks after they were engaged in two separate face-offs. The Foreign Ministry has said all Indian activities were carried out on its side of the border, asserting that India has always taken a very responsible approach towards border management. The standoff in eastern Ladakh is in at least 5 key areas where India and China have had traditional differences on the perception of the LAC in the region. The present tension between two sides came into sharp focus when reports of skirmish between the soldiers of both sides were reported in the Pangong Lake region on May 5 and 6. The Indian Air Force has deployed its latest heavy lift helicopters CH-47F to take supplies to remote areas in the higher reaches of Arunachal Pradesh amid the coronavirus pandemic, officials said. The Boeing Chinook is among India's latest buy from the American firm, along with the AH-64 Apache tank buster attack helicopters. Arunachal Pradesh Chief Minister Pema Khandu tweeted a video of a Chinook taking off from an airfield in Mayo district, 25 km from the state border with Assam. Arunachal Pradesh has so far reported 4 cases of coronavirus. One has recovered according to the data of Health Ministry website. These helicopters under the Eastern Air Command are based in Monabari in Assam. They will provide the IAF unmatched strategic airlift capability across the full spectrum of combat and humanitarian missions, officials said. Boeing on its website says the Chinook has unsurpassed ability to deliver heavy payloads to high altitudes and eminently suitable for operations in high Himalayas. The aircraft has been battle tested in diverse extreme conditions throughout the world and has proven capability to operate in the wide range of conditions that typify the Indian subcontinent, says Boeing. Domestic stock markets rose in a volatile session on Friday, extending gains to a third straight session ahead of the release of official gross domestic product data from January-March period. The S&P BSE Sensex index stayed in the negative territory for most part of the day, falling as much as 376 points to 31,823 before recovering in late afternoon deals. The broader NSE Nifty 50 benchmark fluctuated between gains and losses, moving within a range of 9,300 to 9,500 as against its previous close of 9,490. Gains in consumer goods, pharmaceutical and oil and gas stocks countered losses in financial shares. The Sensex ended 223 points higher at 32,424 and the Nifty settled at 9,568, up by 78 points compared to its previous close. Analysts awaited the GDP data due at 5:30 p.m. for more clarity on the damage caused by the coronavirus pandemic, which has pushed the economy into a standstill and forced many businesses to trim workforce, impacting a large sum of workers. According to the median forecast from a poll of economists by news agency Reuters, the country's GDP grew 2.1% in the March quarter, lower than 4.7% in the previous quarter. However, the full impact of the lockdown on manufacturing and services will become more apparent in the June quarter, with Goldman Sachs predicting a 45% contraction from a year ago. The government has been gradually easing lockdown restrictions and is expected to announce further guidelines in the coming days. India's gross domestic products GDP grew 3.1% in January-March, official data showed on Friday. That was much better than economists estimate, but still lower than an expansion of 4.7% estimated in the previous quarter. The median forecast from a poll by economists by news agency Reuters had pegged GDP growth at 2.1% in the final quarter of fiscal year 2019-20, with forecast ranging between plus 4.5% and minus 1.5%. The official rate of GDP expansion comes days after the country entered a third month of lockdown, with few exceptions to curb the spread of the novel coronavirus pandemic, which has hampered an already showing economy and forced many businesses to trim their operations, leading to thousands of job losses. With data for the latest quarter, GDP growth for the full financial year, which ended on March 31, came in at 4.2% as the COVID-19 lockdown affected the manufacturing and services sectors. Earlier this month, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman detailed monetary and fiscal stimulus worth rupees 20 lakh crore to shield the country from the economic fallout from the coronavirus outbreak. Many economists have already lowered their projections for the current financial year, with some even warning about the possibility of recession due to the COVID-19 disease. Someday in April, June, November numbers will give a clear picture of the damage caused by the coronavirus to the economy. With services taking a knock, US-based Goldman Sachs Group sees India's economy contracting a record 5% in 2020-21. The service sector accounts for increased GDP, and a slump in output triggers ripple effects on job and economic growth. Minister of Commerce and Industry Shri Piyush Goyal on Thursday met the representative of Traders Association via video conferencing. He said that during the lockdown period, the nation geared itself to fight against the COVID-19 pandemic and built capacities. The domestic manufacturing of the protection equipment like masks, sanitizers, gloves got a boost. Health infrastructure was scaled up and awareness was generated among the people. He said that people responded to the Prime Minister's call for work untidily to face the unprecedented crisis by adhering to the government's guidelines and directions. Arogya Setu has been developed during the period, which acts as a shield, friend and messenger in the crisis. People changed their lifestyles and adapted quickly to live, work, study differently under the circumstances. Shri Goyal said that timely and correct decisions taken by the Prime Minister and adhered to by the people have helped the country, as we are in a better position compared to many other nations of the world with more resources and a lesser population. Regarding some of the hardship being faced by the retail traders even after the relaxation of the guidelines, the minister said that a majority of shops have been allowed to be opened without any distinction of essential and non-essential. The decision to open the remaining shops in the malls will be taken soon after taking into account the guidelines of the Health Ministry. He said that Atmanirbhar package announced by the Union Finance Minister to fight COVID-19 provided for rupees 3 lakh crore credit guarantee for MSME, and it also covered traders. Shri Goyal told the retail traders not to feel threatened by the e-commerce juggernaut, as the commerce person has now realized that the brick and mortar Kirana neighborhood shopkeepers only help them in their hour of crisis. Regarding other problems of the trader community pertaining to term loans, mudra loans and other issues, Shri Goyal said that the matter will be taken up with the Finance Ministry to find a solution. Prime Minister Narendra Modi met with Home Minister Amit Shah and senior officials today to discuss the way forward as the coronavirus lockdown extended thrice ends on Sunday. A decision is likely tomorrow on whether to extend the restrictions amid the steady rise in virus cases, given need to reopen economic activity. The Home Ministry has been asked to analyze inputs from various sectors and states. Some states have already extended the virus lockdown and nothing stops them from taking any further steps on their own, sources said. Congress-ruled states have reportedly asked for an end to the lockdown. States like Karnataka have demanded the reopening of religious centers, which will need a political call. Religious places and gatherings which draw huge crowds and challenge attempts to enforce physical distancing have stayed banned since the country went into lockdown in late March. Cabinet Secretary Rajiv Gauba, the country's top bureaucrat and other top ministers were present in the meeting. On Thursday, Amit Shah spoke to various chief ministers and asked for feedback on a plan after lockdown 4 ends on Sunday. This marked a shift from the earlier process of the Prime Minister video conferencing with Chief Minister to get their views before extending a lockdown. All Chief Ministers have given their views on how they want to move forward. Over the last few days, the Prime Minister's office has also reviewed the entire lockdown period and the trend of virus cases and deaths. Goa Chief Minister Pramod Sawant, after his conversation with Mr. Shah, claimed the possibility of the lockdown being extended by 2 more weeks. The government has been concerned about the sharp criticism of its strategy to counter coronavirus, which has pushed to it change its stance on several occasions. Home Ministry sources said the way forward of the lockdown would be a political call. The government's option include staying with the National Disaster Management Act, which empowers the centre to take all the decision regarding health, which is state subject. During the last extension of the lockdown in midday, the government has allowed many relaxations, leaving it to states to decide on what to reopen, what stays shut. That's all for now. Keep watching K News. This is Hardik Trivedi taking your leave. Be alert, be positive, be safe.